I see this so many times where everyone comes to me and explains this terrible phone call that they had on on the line with whoever it was. If they could just save their energy for not needing to deliver the justice on the phone call, and instead really harnessing that energy into learning about what are those next steps that they can take to resolve this issue.
This is NICU Babies Parent Support with Kathryn Whitaker, a podcast from Hand to Hold, a national nonprofit that provides free personalized support, resources, and community before, during, and after a NICU stay. My conversations here focus on education and personal stories with medical and hospital professionals, counselors, therapists, and NICU moms and dads from across the country. So whether you're preparing for a NICU stay, you're currently there, or you're months and years past your stay, you belong here. The NICU is hard. We're here to help. I'm your host, Kathryn Whitaker, the mom of 6 children, including my very own NICU baby, and I'm so grateful that you're here. Howdy, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the NICU Babies Parent Support Podcast. Okay, well, I know that what we're going to talk about today, every single NICU parent can relate to, because I'm betting that you have received a medical bill from an anesthesiologist or a specialist or from a hospital or blah, 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 all the places. And you may have found yourself opening up that bill and then immediately wanting to shred it, or looking at it and feeling like you had to master in a foreign language to understand it, or you got on a phone call with an insurance company or with the government or the social worker and you felt overwhelmed and you just weren't sure what to do. My guest today is Jules Nowak. So Jules has a background in finance and accounting, but she also had a 73-day NICU stay. So she has some lived experience. And she started this great resource called the Medical Bill Academy. And I think what I love about it is that on her Instagram and social media channels, she shares some really great practical tips and like bite-sized pieces that you're like, okay, I can do that. And then if you want to dive a little bit deeper, she's got some great resources on her website. But I think what she really encourages us to do is to be advocates for our families, to be advocates for ourselves, to be advocates for our own financial literacy and our own financial health. And so there's a lot that we're going to dive into. We're probably going to break down some acronyms. We're going to talk about what do you do if you don't even know where to start. So that's where we're going to begin, is giving you a little bit of a precursor as to this is what you can expect. These are some things that you should do to sort of demystify the financial part of having a NICU baby. And then this is how to dig out of that, because I know it can feel overwhelming. I can't tell you how many hours I have spent on the phone with medical billing offices. It's easily years of my life, but I have learned so much from that and has bled over into so many other areas of our family. And while I don't love that we had a NICU stay, I do love that I did not come out of it without some great information and experiences that help our financial literacy. So I hope that you love this episode as much as I do. I geek out a little bit, so does Jules, because we both love helping people learn how to have a better handle on their financial health. So my guest today is Jules Nowak. She's the founder of the Medical Bill Academy, which is a digital education platform dedicated to helping individuals and even employers understand and manage their U.S. health insurance and medical billing effectively. As a financial health literacy educator, she distills complex healthcare jargon and procedures into clear, actionable guidance. Her journey began after facing overwhelming personal circumstances. She was navigating her husband's rare illness, and she had a newborn who had a life-threatening diagnosis and spent 73 days in the neonatal intensive care unit. She has a master's degree in accounting. Jules took that and applied her expertise to decode medical bills, saving significant time and money, and her experience inspired her mission to empower others to do the same. And I know that we're going to have a great conversation, so let's get to it. Well, Jules, I'm really excited that you're here. We were saying before we got started that we both like to nerd out on medical billing, so it's nice to be able to do that with someone else instead of just by myself. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I think it always helps for people to understand. I know you have a background in finance, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but you also have some lived experience, having spent a lot of time in the NICU. So did I read right, 73 days?
Yes, 73 days in the NICU in St. Petersburg, Florida. We live in Dallas and lived in Dallas whenever my daughter got her diagnosis. And we ultimately decided to relocate for her care for her diagnosis. And we stayed 73 days in St. Petersburg, Florida at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital.
So maybe share a high and a low of the 73 days. What was your best day? What
Ooh.
was your hardest day?
Best days. We relocated there because that hospital, there was a particular surgeon who and a team really that it was a specialized NICU facility for just this birth defect, congenital diaphragmatic hernia. And because of that, a lot of other families chose to relocate there and stay at the Ronald McDonald House. And so we were actually surrounded by a community of people that got the exact same diagnosis as us, kind of had a very similar story of discovering the birth defect of our child and then getting to share and bond with each other and not feeling alone in that journey. And so definitely the high was the community that we made while we were there. And then I think the low in the same turn was the moments that we felt so alone and away from our friends that in Dallas. And that was probably, those were the hardest times when I wanted to, I wanted to, I wanted to take my baby back home to the nursery and I could not. I was scared to put things up and even decorate a nursery because I wasn't sure if I was going to bring her home or not. And so those were the hardest times, really just that loneliness and being away from home. But the community we built there was also incredible and beautiful.
I think a lot of NICU parents and caregivers that are listening can relate to that. I'm glad that you mentioned the Ronald McDonald House because I know that's a resource that not every hospital, but a lot of hospitals provide. And it does provide, at least you're in a house not full of people that are like on their way to the pool and vacation, but they actually know what it feels like to be you and they know how hard of a place it is. So I'm grateful that that provided a little bit of a home away from home for y'all. Okay, so logistically, like, what are some things that you wish you would have known about the NICU stay? Maybe logistically, emotionally. We'll get into financially in a minute, but
Okay.
I'm curious what some things are that you wish you would have known.
Well, I don't know. As a first time parent, I think that logistically, I had mentioned to you before we started recording, I didn't have any other children. This was like my first go around. So it really felt like parenting boot camp to the extreme.
Wow.
I learned how to change my daughter's diaper in the NICU, and we always laugh and say, "No one gets explained how to. No one's going to explain to you how to change your baby's diaper, but I did. Someone
You're
told
like,
me how to
I
do it.
did.
I got some training in it." So logistically, we navigated probably one of the hardest parts logistically was figuring out who was going to stay in the hospital, who's going to be there. My husband and I ultimately decided we were going to switch every other night being at the hospital once she was kind of not as heavily sedated and more kind of she could get a little bit more uncomfortable and we could start to learn her patterns and be that one of us could be there to comfort her. And yeah, so I think logistically, that was one of the hardest parts of really just making sure that me and my husband were in tune with one another and saying, like, this is what's your expectation going into what does this look like? And so we were able to be really honest. What are you comfortable with? You know, I wasn't really comfortable with her crying for very long. I didn't want her to be uncomfortable. I didn't know how long we would have with our sweet girl, and I wanted to hold her every second she was crying. And that's what I was able to share with my husband, and he was able to say, you know, I agree. How about we do an every other night? My mom also came for a little while to help, so me and my husband could step away from the hospital for a little while as well.
Well, I'm thinking too, we'll switch into finances in a minute, but okay, so you live in one state, you relocate to another state. Was that a little bit of a financial nightmare as you were trying to sort through? I mean, I'm suspecting that it might be, but it's hard enough in my own state. I can't imagine trying to do a different state.
So the Ronald McDonald House was, I think, the big swing for us. I'm not sure it would have happened. I mean, maybe we would have found another way to make it work, but just the Ronald McDonald House in providing that stability of care of a home for us in that time frame, which was really just up in the air. It was a question mark, was enough for us to say, yes, we're doing this. With our jobs, we did have a little bit of a window that we knew we thought we might not come back to a job, but both of our employers were absolutely incredible. They threw it, my employer threw me a huge baby shower before we left. We just were really every single step of the way. And I know it's not this way for everyone. The Lord made it very clear that this is what the path he wanted our family to take. And like I said, I know that's not how it is for every single family, but every time we ran into a roadblock, it felt like things were just kind of made easy for us, like our employers saying, go, we'll figure out the rest, and we want you to be back. So just go get the care for her and we'll figure out the rest. And so the Ronald McDonald House, our employers, and then I think just ultimately us being able to say, okay, we trust that the rest will fall in place. If we go too long, we'll think about that when we get there.
Well, I'm thinking most of us do navigate medical billing offices and we go through insurance companies, or if we're under CHIP, I mean, there's certain elements that you just have to do, but not everybody does what you did and takes it to the next level of creating the Medical Bill Academy. So what was the shift, Jules? Like, when did you say, okay,
Ooh.
we've had this life experience, I have this background, and now I feel called into maybe helping other parents? Like, what happened?
So actually, I read a book by Jennifer Fulwiler, and I know you're actually really close with her. I'd seen you tag her a couple times, but it's called what is it called? Find your blue flame. I
Oh,
can't.
your one blue
Your
flame.
Yes, your one blue flame. And I love that book. I read it, and I remember one of the things she was talking about was like, what's that one weird thing that you love to do, but every time you share that with someone, they're like, why? Why would you like doing that? Or like, why are you good at that? That's just such a weird, random thing. And for me, that's what this was. Anytime someone was like talking about some medical billing issue, my ears would perk up and I would be like, oh yeah, here's what you could do next. Like, and I felt like I was able to recognize this pattern that everyone seems to run into. And I could just hear their frustration and their longing for just peace in the middle of crisis and
Right.
this vulnerability. I feel so exposed and unprepared. And I just wanted to help meet people there and say, actually, you're not alone. You're not the only one. There's so much shame associated with this for some reason. Actually, I have an idea of what the reason is, but there is so much shame with it too. And I just wanted to be able to sit with people in it and say, it's okay. Let's like do the next step together. You're not alone. Everyone's feeling this exact same way. And here are the tools that I can help give you to help you take the next step.
I'm really glad that you said shame. I think some people feel like when something medically happens, they either dip into savings, or maybe they've had money set aside, or they knew that it was coming, so they sort of planned for it. And then for most people, I would say a NICU stay, whether it's planned or not, the expenses are far beyond, I think, even what I expected they would be, because one day you're just rolling along in the NICU, and then another day you hit the bottom of the roller coaster. And so it's a little bit of a financial roller coaster to hit, and I think sometimes it feels really shameful when you have to admit, 1, this is really hard, and 2, how in the world are we gonna pay for all this? I remember
Yeah.
bills starting to come in, and I'm like, "Okay, so this is a lot of money, and I don't know what we're gonna do." So, Jules, what's your first counsel to someone if they have a NICU stay that's coming, or they found themselves unexpectedly in the NICU? What would you encourage them? Like, what's first step? And we'll go back and talk about what they could do before they actually get there.
Okay, so the first thing that I think someone should do if they encounter a NICU stay or they know that it's going to be coming is one, figure out your health insurance. So, do you have health insurance? If you do, get to know your health plan and go online, log into your health insurance portal, and go find the summary of benefits. The summary of benefits is going to walk you through what really just a high level overview of your health insurance plan. It's going to give you your deductible. This is how much you are going to end up paying before your insurance starts to share in the cost of your health care. So you're going to have an individual deductible and a family deductible. So get comfortable with those terms and figure out, okay, do we have this money set aside? If we don't, how are we going to start setting aside that money? The summary of benefits will also show things like co-insurance. So once I have met my deductible, how much will insurance pay? And then how much will still be my portion? And then most importantly, because we know that NICU stays are expensive, what is your out-of-pocket maximum? This is the most that your health plan
Because you're going to hit it. No, you're going to hit
it. Yes. What is the most that your health plan will, or the most that you're going to have to pay for those health services? And and again, this is specific to health services that are covered by your health insurance plan. And I always make sure to mention that, because if for some reason there are services that are, quote, not covered by your health insurance plan, then those services aren't subject to that out-of-pocket maximum. But for the most part, yes, you can get comfortable with what a certain amount of money, this out-of-pocket maximum, what does that look like? Could I even think of this almost like a car payment, right? I set aside, I know that now I have this big out-of-pocket expense coming. Could I start setting aside this, whatever X amount of dollars each month to start saving for that, a little bit of that every single month? So that's what I would suggest for if you have health insurance. If you do not have health insurance, I would definitely start by looking at financial aid applications. I know of an amazing resource called $4. And once you are billed, they do have they help you fill out financial aid applications. Actually, they even have health advocates that will help you through that process. A lot of the financial aid applications can be really daunting. And so for anyone that is filling out a financial aid application, even if you have insurance, you can still fill out a financial aid application and qualify for financial aid. Yes, we don't. I always say we don't pay for medical bills that we don't owe, and not-for-profit hospitals are required to follow these guidelines and offer financial aid to specified household incomes. And so if you do qualify for that, just go check and see if you do qualify. If you're like, I'm too burdened by this application seems so daunting, there's no way I can get through it by myself, go to $4.org, and those health advocates will help you kind of follow up in that process so that you aren't kind of delaying and not completing the application, because it's hard. It's hard to remember those things and push through.
I think people forget that there are people out there to help, like even as the simple of asking your nurse, can the social worker stop by at the hospital? They are so well versed in what you qualify for. They know about local programs like that are at the hospital where you're staying. They also know about national programs. So I'm always an advocate of like, ask for money, because there are charities, there are all sorts of things out there. And I think at the time we didn't think that we were going to qualify for SSI, which was supplemental security income. So we got, every little bit helps paying off big bills. And so I would encourage people to do both of those things, that whether you have insurance or you don't, there's great resources out there and you just have to ask. We'll make sure that we share all those in the show notes, because those are some really good ones. So do you think that your background in finance helped as you were sort of navigating? Because my background's in agriculture. That did not help me at all in helping with bills. So I'm curious how yours did.
Yes, I think it absolutely did. All the debits and credits. No, I graduated with my master's in accounting in 2016. And whenever I got I got married also in 2016, and my husband actually was the first one to face a health crisis rather. And when he faced his complex medical issues, that's the first time I realized, wow, this healthcare system is like a game. It really is. It's like a game that I got dropped into. Nobody explained the rules to me. And this isn't I just was like, I just graduated with my master's in accounting, and this is hard.
And this is hard for you.
I'm an auditor. Like I was an auditor at a big four company. So like I can tie out financial statements, and I mean I can figure out a puzzle with finances. And that's what I was doing with these medical bills. And I was like, wow, how is anyone who doesn't have some kind of financial background navigate this? How is a mom with a baby in the NICU supposed to navigate this on top of all of those priorities? And it was just heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking for me personally, because I was having to deal with this on top of trying to figure out what was wrong with my husband, like what was going on. We're in our early 20s and he's facing this rare disease. How in the world am I supposed to do this work? I was just out of college. I am newly married. Just how does anyone get through this? It was really complicated.
Yeah, because not only are you dealing with this major health issue or illness or hospital stay that's incredibly emotional, but then you also have phone calls that you have to make on behalf of their medical care. And then you have insurance, and oh, yeah, you have a life. And if you're married, you have other children or a job. I mean, just add it all up, and there's like not enough hours in the day. This podcast is produced by Hand to Hold, a national nonprofit, but we're more than simply a podcast. Be sure to download our app in the Apple Store or on Google Play, or you can visit our website to discover all the ways that we can support you as a NICU parent at handtohold.org. You can join one of our support groups, sign up for counseling, find loss and bereavement support, request a peer mentor, or check out our educational resources and family stories. And all of that is at no cost to you. So if you had to give people a couple of hacks or maybe things that you're like, if only people did this, their life would be so much easier, so much simpler. So I know you talked about understanding your benefits, and if you don't have insurance, understanding what charities or what social workers can offer in the form of charitable giving for paying off your bills. So I know we talked about those two things, but what else are a couple of things that people miss out on that you're like, why are you not doing this?
I have a YouTube video that explains this with examples on it. And so I'll give you that link so that you can
That'd be awesome.
Send a link to that in the show notes as well. It's the 4 simple steps to read and save on your medical bills. And this is what I refer everyone to. I'm like, I wish everyone did this. If you didn't do anything, just do this. Whenever you get a bill, number one, it's number one because it is the most important, but just open the medical bill. Don't leave it somewhere. Don't throw it away. I want you to open it and face it so that you can start to get through it. It doesn't need to be this lingering weight on your shoulders on top of everything else we're going through. Let's just keep going. Let's push through. Let's lean into it and try and just do the next step. It can be really daunting with these medical bills to kind of almost like open a can of worms. You're like, oh, I just asked one question and now I've got 10 more items on my to-do list, but it will be done. One day it will be done. And I just want to encourage you, when you open that bill, yes, there might be more to-do steps later, but right now there will only just be one, and it's the next one. So just think about the next one. So open that bill. Next, I want you to check the line items on that bill. Does everything look like it should be there, or are there things that you're like, wow, I have no idea what these services are. This doesn't look right at all. And I know for NICU parents, this is pretty tough because there can be so many charges. Give it a rough look and say, okay, I think that this looks right. If you see things that were absolutely not performed, you can follow up with the provider and just ask and say, I don't think that this was done, or can you provide clarity? The next thing is to review insurance adjustments and discounts. So the insurance companies and the providers enter into contracts with one another. And in those contracts, they agree to certain specified prices for each of those items that are listed on your bill. And so the discounts are what's bringing your service down to an agreed upon rate. And that's the rate that you get for being a member of this insurance plan.
How lucky are you? Yeah.
Oh, yes, exactly. And those prices can still be really high too. But so you'll check those discounts, check the adjustments are the insurance payments, and you should be able to tie out what I mean by tie out, you should be able to match your insurance adjustment to the the explanation of benefit on your health insurance portal. And so if you have time to do this, you can do that step where you go onto your insurance site and you pull down your explanation of benefits. You see how insurance calculated their payment and you can compare it to your medical bill. That is what I do every time. It's not required of you every time. If you want to do a really thorough check, that is what I would do. If not, just go check and see, okay, did my insurance company make a payment that I expected? And then lastly, just check the math on the bill. It's kind of like just subtract it out. Is this right? A lot of these bills are actually manually done. It's not an automated system all the time. So it just kind of depends what provider you're using, what hospital system. Some of these are really manual components, and just check the math, make sure everything's calculating out correctly. And I think that's really a good basic way to start. Was everything performed that's on this bill? Did my insurance cover what they said they would cover, or did they not? And did that payment actually get applied to my account? And then let's move on to the next step. If you had a question on one of those, if there was a follow-up item, reach out to the provider and perform the next step. If you think you owe a payment, maybe the next step is reaching out and asking for a payment plan option. And if you actually have saved in advance for the rainy day, maybe say, hey, can I get a discount if I pay in full today? Or if I make a X amount of dollar payment, would you give me a discount on this? Just ask. Ask for the discount. Like you mentioned, ask for them. Don't be afraid to ask for that discount. Yeah. My mom always said, if you don't ask, the answer is no. And that is so true in this scenario. A lot of times I've gotten discounts just by offering to pay something in full that day.
Well, and a lot of times if you ask for a payment plan, they want you to do their schedule. And I would be like, well, so you're asking me to pay you money that doesn't exist. So how about instead of 3 months, we make it, 6 months or 9 months or even a year. And I'll say like, this is what we can do. So how do we do it? And I think sometimes their default is they want you to be on their plan, but you know your finances best. Like this is me encouraging people be an advocate for your own finances, because I think sometimes we feel pressured to follow their payment plan, and that's what puts us into financial strain. When instead, if we had just advocated and said, this is what we can do. I think I remember at one point we had like 17 bills, and I was like, I can't pay I can pay everybody a little, but I can't pay everybody off. So that might mean I'm going to pay, some of the smaller ones first and knock those out, and we're going to go after some of the bigger ones. But I remember talking to the lady on the phone. I was like, if I had $1 million, you would all get paid today, but I do not have that money. So I'm going to encourage people, think about your own terms too. Look at your own budget and figure out what you can and can't afford. And they want to get paid at the end of the day, whether it's in 6 months, 9 months, or a year, or even longer. You have the ability and the right to do that. I'm glad that you mentioned that. Oh my gosh, there's so much there. Okay, so let's talk about a few terms. I know we talked about deductibles because there's a lot of different terms that people hear. So maybe like 3 or 4 terms that you think are important for people to know and understand. And then I know there's a million out there. Just like the NICU, there's 8 million acronyms in the world of finances and insurance and when it comes to medical billing. So maybe give people an idea of maybe what your top 3 or 4 might be.
Yeah. So one of the ones I always mention is a lot of people will get premium. So like premiums, deductibles, coinsurance. Those are the kind of common ones that can kind of get flipped around. So a premium it's kind of like a subscription cost to your health insurance plan. So if you think of it like that, this is how much you're paying into it. And this is because you're paying into this this premium, you are going to get the benefits of being a member on the health insurance plan. So premium is one that I can see get confused for something like deductible. And deductible is the amount that you are going to pay for health services on your plan before health insurance starts to cover the cost. So you're always going to have to pay those at 100% before health insurance starts to pay anything. Another one, I already had mentioned adjustments and discounts. Out-of-pocket max copays. Copays are going to be that regular, it's a fixed amount for going to a specific type of provider. So if you're on a plan that's like a PPO plan or an HMO plan, then those plans have stipulations where, okay, if I go to an office visit for a general provider, then it's only going to cost me this $20 copay or whatever the plan specifies. If I go to the ER, it may be a $200 copay for that ER intake. And so copays are really nice I love a good copay because it takes away that variable aspect of sometimes those office visits or like going to Care Now real quick can get pretty expensive if you're on a plan that's like a high deductible plan, for example.
So I want to ask you this, Jules. If you are in a position, maybe you've paid a bunch of bills and like they're all hitting either your insurance or they're hitting some of your government assistance at different times. I know that sometimes we get in a situation where maybe we've overpaid someone and you realize it and you're like, oh, like I paid this doctor too much money when really either that was covered under my health insurance or that was covered by the government. Like, how do you go about getting money back that you should never have paid to begin with?
Oh, that's honestly a great question. So whenever I see that this happens, this is why it's really important to and a lot of people get nervous about hearing like what a account reconciliation is. That sounds like a big word, but really all that is saying, okay, it's looking at your statement, your bill from your medical provider and looking at the charges and then looking at the all of the payments. And so what you're talking about is now we've got all these charges and now there's too many payments hitting this one account. And so what you end up having for the hospital is a credit balance on
And
your
they're not going to call you
and
and
they're
tell
not
you.
going to call
No
you.
one's calling you and
They
telling you
won't.
have a credit.
They
No.
will not call you. There is probably some kind of like quarterly reconciliation. At my job personally, whenever I first started, we had our AR credit thing that we did every follow up every month, and we get to certain owners. But I can tell you the AR credit report was a lot lower priority than the AR report where we were going to be getting money. So it's really important to think of this as like from the business perspective, always remembering that you are a player in the game. We have the provider, they want to make money. We have the insurance companies, they want to make money. And we have the patient. All three of those people, well, two of them are making money and one of them is paying. And one of them is the customer. And so it's really important that you are remembering that perspective as you approach this is like, this is a business. I have to work at it to be playing the game with them. And so make that phone call. You are not a burden. You can say, I've paid this much. I saw this payment hit from whoever it was, my insurance company. And I also know that this company paid on our behalf as well. And so I know I have a $200 credit balance. I would like this to be mailed in the week or in the next week. And specify a date. That I always specify a date in my emails, and I call and I get an email because a lot of times whenever I make a request for a credit balance, I want it in writing so I can say I will be following. I want this done in a week. but I'll also be following up with you on that next day. And I write that day on Wednesday, September, whatever. That's the day I'll be following up so that they're like, oh, she's going to call back. We don't
She's
want
calling.
to deal with her again. And you don't have to be mean about it.
No.
You can just be direct. And it can be, here are the facts. It's only reasonable that I give them enough time to process something like that, because I know it's not going to be like the next day. And so I make it to where it's in their best interest to just mail the check quickly. We don't have to have this big back and forth. And I'm not going to be mean and drag everyone along in the process. So
I had a conversation with a mom. She has a child who has a lot of medical needs, and she said she always empowers the person on the other end of the phone, and speaking into that, being kind. You can be direct, but you can be kind. And she said she always starts with, I have this problem, and I think that you have the expertise to help me solve it. And I love that so much because it empowers the person, because they're like, yes, I am a problem solver. I can help you solve this. And so instead of you being confrontational, you're just being direct and saying, like, there's this issue. I don't fully have all the information I need, but I think that you do. So help me understand. So that's a big phrase of mine. I would say, if I were to get 10 medical bills, in fact, I have a stack behind me of people that I have to call tomorrow. But I would say if I get 10 medical bills, I'm probably still calling about 5, Jules, just because of what we learned going through the NICU. Like, I'm still making phone calls. It hasn't left me. In fact, when anybody in my family has a medical issue, they're always like, hey, Kathryn, can you help me with the medical bills? Yes, I can. So before we end up, I want people to know how to connect with you on the Medical Bill Academy, because I know that's a great academy that you have. We haven't even talked about that. So give people an idea of what that is and the resources that you provide to people.
Yeah, so I help with financial health literacy. I'm a financial health literacy educator, and I created digital products to help you navigate the complexities of the healthcare system as a patient. And so I created those digital products. You can find those at medicalbillacademy.com, or you can go to my Instagram. That's Instagram.com. My handle's at Medical Bill Academy, so you can find me there as well. And I have a link tree to those digital products as well.
Well, we'll make sure that we have all that in the show notes, but definitely go check that out. If you had, I know you talked about financial literacy, so we'll end it with this. So, if there's something that you wish you would have known about how to protect your financial health, Jules, what would you tell people if they're trying to go back in time and you're like, what's one thing that I wish I would have known about protecting my financial health?
Letting go of delivering justice on the phone call while you are trying to sort out your medical bills. So I see this so many times where everyone comes to me and explains this terrible phone call that they had on the line with whoever it was. If they could just save their energy for not needing to deliver the justice on the phone call, and instead really harnessing that energy into learning about what are those next steps that they can take to resolve this issue, and quite possibly not learning from that person on the other side of that phone call, because it's most likely that the person on the other side of the phone call is either the provider or the insurance company. And what we learned earlier in this episode is that those two people want to make money. And so learning on those phone calls is kind of a hard concept. It's like, you may not want to be learning on that phone call. Maybe we take it outside of that phone call, and you can empower yourself by learning some more medical billing terms like coinsurance, and start reviewing your medical bill yourself, and really just going to them when you absolutely need to.
That's really, really good advice. Jules, this is a topic that we could have spread out over multiple episodes. I know we just scratched the surface a little bit, but I'll encourage people to go to Medical Bill Academy, both your website as well as Instagram, to get some resources. But thank you for the gift of your wisdom and for using both your experience in the NICU and your background in finance to help people. It's awesome. I easily could have asked Jules 1 million more questions. We could have made this like a 5-part series. In my 2-minute take today, I think this is what I want you to take from this is, if you get a bill and you think, I don't think that's right, or didn't we just pay something similar? Don't be afraid to reach out, advocate for your kid, for your family, and call the doctor's office and say, I have some questions, or Are you sure about this bill? I wish that I could tell you that it's rare, but it's not. So many times when I have done that, the person on the other end of the line has said, oh, you know what? You can just shred that bill. Or you know what? We actually did make a mistake. We're going to resend a different bill, or just disregard that. And if I hadn't learned how to advocate for my family, I would have paid easily hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars to people that are making money, whether it's insurance companies, whether it's doctors' offices. That was my money, and we could have used that for other things. So be an advocate for your family. I know it can feel overwhelming. I know that there were a lot of times that I felt overwhelmed with medical billing, but remember that there are so many resources out there. I'm going to link to a bunch of them. I would say a million, not a million, but several links in the show notes that I think are going to be great for you to look at. Is this a fair price for the procedure that I'm being paid? Do I need some help? Do I need like a patient advocate to help me fill out financial aid assistance paperwork? There's so many resources right there. Are there charities in my local area? Do I need to reach out to the social worker in the NICU or even at the hospital to say, this is our circumstance, we need some help? What resources exist? Because while there are national ones, there are also local ones. Also, there's charity care more than likely at your hospital. So just ask the question, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Can you help me navigate the medical part? Can you help me navigate this financial aspect? Because it can feel really overwhelming. I love that Jules mentioned that yes, you have this medical diagnosis, maybe you have a baby in the NICU, and that in and of itself is a lot. In fact, it feels like too much. And then you may have things outside your job, your family obligations, and then now you have medical billing stuff. So I want you to believe and know and understand that you're not alone. There are a lot of places. In fact, this is the third episode that we've done on medical billing and insurance. I'm very passionate about this because I believe that parents should have great information. Caregivers should have great information about how to be good advocates for the bills that they are paying, because I believe that we're paying too much. I think that you have more coverage out there, either through your insurance or through the government or programs that you qualify for, that you can get some assistance. So I'm going to also link to those other two episodes because I know that it's a treasure trove. There's a lot to learn, but ask for help. You do not have to figure out this yourself. Visit with other NICU parents, perhaps even those that have had some of the same specialists or been at the same hospitals as you, because they know the resources that exist and they can be like your sensei. They've done it ahead of you. So lean into their wisdom. And I hope today that you enjoyed Jules's wisdom, because she is a treasure trove of great things. You can also check out her website, which is at Medical Bill Academy. She's got some great resources on there. We have more episodes coming, so make sure that you go back, look at all the ones that we've done this season. Know that we have some great ones coming. If you love today's episode, share it with a friend, watch us on YouTube, do all the things. We're super grateful every time y'all do that. But don't go anywhere, because next time we're going to be chatting a little bit about this.
But people who just listen, if you ever want to support someone who's gotten a life-changing diagnosis, just to listen to them, not offer advice, just be there. And again, validate their feelings, even if what they're saying, obviously, sometimes you have to say, hey, maybe you should talk to a professional or whatever, but like, their feelings are valid. They're going through something completely life-changing, and just to listen and support them and not judge them, not try to relate to it. Again, unless you are another parent of a child with that exact diagnosis, you just be supportive, but be quiet.